Hello explorers and welcome to another video. Today we are going to talk about Rosetta Code. And Rosetta Code is a repository of a lot of different coding examples in different languages. So it's a great repository if you want to figure out how to do things in different languages, figure out how things are equal or not similar at all, and so on. So if we switch over to my screen here, if you just search for Rosetta Code or go to rosettacode.org, you get to this page. It's a wiki page. You can add your own task and examples and also add your own things to this, get it vetted, and get it into this. This is similar like Wikipedia, but for just code examples. So here we have a bunch of different examples. We have even odd, Lucas-Lemmer test, additive primes, for loops, and so on. So I want to look at the specific task. So if I go to tasks here, you can see that there is a lot of task example here. So you can go to the next page and there is even more. And what I'm looking for is here, it's the fizz buzz. So fizz buzz example. So if I go into that, because I know that there is a bunch of people that added to the FizzBuzz example. If you haven't seen the problem FizzBuzz before, let's explain it. So write a program that can print the integers from 1 to 100 inclusive, but for the multiples of 3, print fizz instead of the number. For the multiples of 5, print buzz instead of the number. For multipliers of 3 and 5, print FizzBuzz instead of the number. The FizzBuzz problem was presented as the lowest level of comprehension required to illustrate adequacy. So it's a very simple program example, and if you want to train yourself in a new language, writing unit tests and getting a good code base, this is a very good example to start with. So if we go down here to the language list and then scroll down to something that we know, Java for instance, let's see, Java, so we go there. So here we have a bunch of Java examples. So the first one is just a main loop where we loop in a for loop from number 1 to number 100 inclusive. So as far as it is lower or equal to 100, then we add to the number and we loop through this. If it's modulus 15 equals to 0, so if it's divisible with 15, then print FizzBuzz. Else, if it's divisible by 3, print fizz. Else, if it's divisible by 5, print buzz. Otherwise, print the number. And the reason for the order here is that if we had any of these first, they would also, of course, not trigger this one because they will be true first. So the order is actually important here. The next example here is a similar one where they are using a while loop instead. So integer number here and then while loop and loop through, but the if statements are similar. Then we have one that is a little bit more involved. So we have a number, a while loop, and then we have a system out where they just do a bunch of these kind of one-liners. So number 15 or then FizzBuzz, else number 3 viz, else number 5 buzz, else number. This is not really super readable, but it's theirs. So that's perhaps good. If we want to look into int streams, here we have an interesting one here. The range 1 to 101. So here we see that if we're using an int stream range, we actually want to say that we want to go 1 above the number we want to hit. And then we map this to an object. And here we see that we can get this I in. We switch over that. Modulus 15, if that is equal to 0, we say fizz. In the case of 3, 6, 9, 12, we say fizz. If 5 and 10, we say buzz. And default is just printing the number. And then we do for each of those and print line all of those. So this is a streaming way of doing it. We are mapping it to a different thing, and then a different string, and then we for each over those strings. That's an interesting one. Here we have another streaming example where they have a bunch of different final static for JDK 12. I'm not even going to go into this one. I think it's very strange and not that readable, actually. I don't really like this. But here we see that you do an iterate over a number to whenever. We do a flat map in order to get this value out here for a range. And then we do a map. We skip the first number. We limit it to 100 numbers in the stream, and then print line. So these are pretty interesting down here to know that you can do that with streams. I think the flat map is an interesting thing as well that you can do. But I think this is a bit convoluted and hard to read. We can also look into JavaScript, of course. So here we have a function, just a for loop through, very similar to the earlier example here. Output fizz, output buzz. And this will probably work. So they are, if it's both 3 and 5, it will add to those two and write this buzz. So yeah, that's good. An interesting approach. Alternate word to get to pattern matching. Okay, so we loop through true, false, fizz, true, false, true, buzz, true, true, fizz, buzz. And then we have two statements here where we add those together and we will get these kind of setup here, true or false. Yeah, that's very ghetto indeed. But an interesting approach. You can do a lot of strange things with JavaScript. We also see that very tersely here, one-liner, very similar to the one above. So that's an interesting take. Or even less characters, somebody going crazy, trying to get it down as much as possible. We can go up and look at, or go down and look at the PHP code, also a language I know well. So here we have a very similar one that we had before. Here we have chosen to not use the curly brackets. It's a choice. I don't really like it because it's not... you lose some readability, but I think it's pretty nice here as well. And here you see that some strange thing about PHP is that it interprets 0 and false and null to not, pretty much. So this is not true because it's 0. Not a very great way of writing that. Here we have a similar one. Concatenate approach. So this is where you put fizz and buzz together. Also very similar to the other ones. A little bit more terse. A one-liner approach here. Somebody that wanted to make something really interesting. So here we see that we have all the statements first here and then we get the outputs back here. Not really liking that one. Compact one-liner, yeah. So I didn't really like any of the PHP approaches here. I think you could have written them a little bit more verbose in order to make the readability bigger. Let's see if we can find a Rust example as well. I've just started playing around with Rust. So here we have a very interesting approach here for the first main. We go from I1 to 100, so equal to 100. I'm not sure if the equal sign is required there. It perhaps just that you need to have that as well, otherwise you will probably go from 1 to 99. And then you have this pattern matching here, I like it, where you go for the modulus of 3 and the modulus of 5, and then match over 0, 0, 0 and anything, anything and 0, anything and anything, and then you do a printout of that. I think this is pretty readable. You of course need to know about pattern matching and about Rust, but I still think this is something that you can look at and understand what is going on. Oh my god, here down here you have a range, and then you map over that range, and then a for each to print it. I'm not sure, is that built in? It's using some cow thing here, but I guess this is just to get the string from the n value here, so perhaps not that bad. And I think this is a little bit strange to just have a range in the middle of everything. I like this for loop better up here, more readable. And then we come to some crazy things down here, where you have, not really readable, not really that nice. And then we go even further. Here it seems like somebody almost have mapped up all the numbers and just print them out. That's a very strange approach. Optimized version with hard-coded input, no standard library, no main function, and direct assembly syscalls to write the standard out. You can do that, but I don't think it's the best way. But it's interesting. Maybe we should look at assembly actually. So let's see, 8086 assembly, something that I've seen before. Let's see this one here. Yeah. So we devise something that is a number, a division, and then we say this is something that is divisible by 3 if it's, and then bus is over 5 divisible. Yeah. So fizz, buzz, if fizz and buzz is number. It's not really that I can say that I understand this fully, but some of the JavaScript things were less readable than this. So here you can see that there is a lot of languages, a lot of things to learn, a lot of things to go through. So if you're curious about a specific language and you want to understand a specific concept, go here in here, look up the specific task, look at that language, and see if you can find something that is interesting and something that you can learn from. I learned a bunch of things just going through the FizzBuzz examples here, some kind of concepts that I hadn't seen before. So I think this is a great resource, and if you are curious about the new language, you can start here, of course. It's always easy to learn by example, at least I have an easier time to learn by example. I hope that you learned something today. If you like this video, give it a like, share it with your friends and colleagues. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. If you have any comments or suggestions, leave them down in the comment section down below, and I really hope to see you in the next video.